speak into the microphone. Our city manager is joining us via video, and the speaker is in front near the TV, so if we don't speak into the mics, he will not be able to hear us. I'm sure it'll last us 22 seconds. So with that, roll call.
Chris Hansen.
Here.
Trace Connor. Here. Tim Poplin. Here. Eddie Foreman. John Kramer. Larry Church.
Here.
Corey Crabtree. Dana Miller.
Here.
Jeff Griffin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Trace Connor.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Jeff Griffin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
No items removed from the consent agenda. Do we have any appearances or petitions from the audience? With none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. I need to ask, Steve, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I'm ready.
I know you're just playing that video video on the computer,
Not already.
All right, call to order the Seminole Gas Authority. Roll call, please.
Larry Church.
Here.
Tim Poplin. Here. Corey Crabtree. Dana Miller. Trace Connor. Here. John Kramer. Chris Hansen.
Here.
Eddie Foreman. Jeff Griffin.
Here. And we also have Councilmember Corey.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Trace Connor. Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Jeff Griffin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
No items removed from the consent agenda. Do we have any appearances or petitions from the audience? With none, I entertain a motion for adjournment. Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. We will move on to the Seminole Municipal Authority. Roll call, please.
Corey Crabtree. Here. Eddie Foreman. Tim Poplin.
Here.
Dana Miller.
Here.
Larry Church.
Here.
Chris Hansen.
Here.
John Kramer. Trace Connor.
Here.
Jeff Griffin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda.
You're fine.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Trace Connor.
Yes.
Jeff Griffin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do we have any, with no items removed from the consent agenda, do we have any appearances or petitions from the audience? And with none, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, we will move on to the Seminole City Council meeting. Again, I would like to let everyone know that our city manager is joining us via video. With that, roll call, please.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Corey Crabtree.
Here.
Larry Church.
Here.
Trace Connor.
Here.
Chris Hansen.
Here.
Eddie Foreman. Dana Miller.
Here.
John Kramer. Jeff Griffin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I would also like to again remind everyone to make sure you speak into the microphone so our city manager and the video will be able to pick up our conversation. With that, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you, Lord, for today. God, I've asked that you bless each one that's here, bless our city, bless our decisions, our discussions.
Tim Hoffman.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Trace Connor. Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
No items removed from the consent agenda. Are there any appearances or petitions from the audience? Okay, with none, we'll move on to awards and presentations. Jerry's not here. Okay.
He's not there.
Okay, all right, we'll set this aside, and I will let everyone know that we have a certificate of appreciation for Jeremy here. One for service to the Seminole Fire Department, but the main reason was he was in Shawnee eating, and a gentleman was choking, and he was able to do the Heimlich maneuver, and the gentleman was back breathing. So thank you very much, Jeremy. Appreciate what you do. We'll move on to our police chief, John Withers, and Detective Chris Ayers. They're going to discuss crime statistics for the city of Seminole compared to other municipalities similar in population.
I need to turn this, okay, can you hear me? All right. Good evening, council members. Glad to be here this evening. After last week, I was down and out, so I'm glad it got canceled. Feeling a lot better, even though Jay said I don't look better. So, but now, a couple of months ago, Steve Saxon asked me how the crime rate is here in Seminole as compared to other cities about our size and population and police force. And I said, that's a very good question, because I really did not know. After that, I contacted several agencies about our size and cities our size, and asked their police chiefs to forward me their crime stats for the past 3 years. Some of them use the same programs we do, some of them do not. Some of them sent in bits and pieces of information, so that's why this list is not always complete to the fullest that I wanted it to. And this is based off of the years, for the past 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021, up until about middle of November of last year is whenever I forwarded this request and started receiving them. So it's not a full year for 2021. I think our main focus has to do initially with the burglaries and larcenies, because at the time there was a big rash in the city of Seminole of porch pirates and things getting stolen out of people's front yards as far as decorations, and cars getting broken into. And that's what I initially based this off of. And as you can see, it's been pretty much steady. There has been a little slight increase in that. And the only explanation that I have, I'm sure that Detective Chris Ayers here can vouch for me, is that the House Bill 780, 781 was passed, which made a lot of these crimes a misdemeanor, especially like the auto burglaries and stuff like that. Prior to this, those were felonies. Now they're misdemeanors, so it's been a little bit more blatant with those. There was an article read in a Tulsa newspaper about a year after this bill was passed about the increase of those types of crimes, especially in their Mighty Quick, or not Mighty Quick, but Quick Trip stores and parking lots. I wasn't able to find that, but I do remember reading that, and it was based off of statistics from that 780, 781 getting passed. But as you can see on this one that has the larger list, starts off Purcell, Tecumseh, Pauls Valley, Cushing, and Sulphur, and us at the very bottom. We're about consistent with other cities and towns our size as far as those types of crimes being reported to their police departments. I'm not saying this is good, but I don't see any big fluctuations as we're worse off than the other towns our size and the police force our size. Thank God our major crimes are not anything to really concerned about around here as far as homicides and stuff like that. It's been relatively low. And on the other paper, the total reports in IBR, this is basically all the crimes that are getting reported to every agency that goes into the state database and then to the federal database. That anywhere from homicides to purse snatching, it's all the crimes, all of them. And you can see that I don't have a full list here because, again, not every agency sent in that full list to me. There's a couple in there did go back 3 years, but not all of them, again, not all of them. That's why I only have past 2 years on there, for 2019, 2020. And that, you can see how many calls, totally reports that we've taken versus all the other agencies our size. There was a little bit of increase. We were a little bit above average in 2019. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way the reports were being made by the officers. They were doing the reports over everything, even a false alarm on a business during that year. That's probably why it's a little bit higher during that time frame. As you see in 2020, we have dropped down quite significantly. And it's probably just about average with all the other cities and towns our size. If there's anything to add to it?
I would say that I would base any kind of response that I have on questions from you guys. There's multiple factors that go into crime rates and trends. If you look right now, I bet that our issues downtown that we faced in the last 6 to 8 months have diminished. One person was shot that was doing it, and the other person was in jail right now. So we basically identified those two, and they're taking care of it at the moment, at least not doing what they were doing. But other than that, I think any questions from you guys we can address.
I was going to ask, what year did 780 and 781 go into effect? Do you remember?
2018?
2018?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm going to ask you please to repeat something. You were talking about something going from a felony to a misdemeanor, and I couldn't understand that. Would you please repeat it?
Yeah, the Bill 780, 781 has made some crimes that were a felony are now a misdemeanor. And burglaries is a big chunk of that. In order for it to be a felony right now, you have to burglarize a home if somebody's in there. Right now, it's a misdemeanor.
Being the facts it's not a felony, do you not chase it as hard now that it's a misdemeanor?
We still do the exact as we always have, but solving those is going to be a lot harder because the suspects are not willing to cooperate because they know it's a misdemeanor. And most likely, they're not going to see jail time.
I appreciate you guys, what you do. You're out there every day putting your life on the lines. The council, I'm going to speak for everybody here. We do appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
We will try to give you everything you need to keep you going home safe.
Well, that is going to be changing here pretty soon with this two new officers that we are getting. I think a lot of these burglaries are going to be, like, again, I don't know if y'all read the Facebook deal. I want to have Detective Ayers who's going to do the major crimes, and I'm going to promote Detective Officer Wind up to detective, and he's going to be handling these property crimes and drugs. That's going to be his main focus. And he will help out with the major crimes, such as homicides and stuff like that, but that's going to be his main focus.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question, and I think our city manager wants to make a comment. So, if someone is coming through town, they don't live around here, they're either out of state or out from another county, and they come through and get stopped, and for whatever reason they get arrested. Does that fall in the same list I guess it was if they had stolen something, it's larceny? Will they be a statistic here, or will they commit a crime? Or both?
No, you're talking about as far as if they get pulled over and they get arrested for.
They're here, let's say, and they're wanted, or they didn't commit the crime in the city of Seminole. But our officers stop them, they get arrested for whatever reason related to a crime in another county. Does that number go on to this record, or does it go to the other city?
The arrest number will go on our statistics. The actual warrant where it came from, that would be whatever agency that is.
So if we happen to have an increase in that happening, then these numbers could be skewed a little bit. Probably not a lot, but a little bit.
A small portion of it, yes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I have one. So, Chief Withers, thank you for all of the hard work you do. I definitely want to echo what Councilperson Hawthorne said. You all do a great job. I personally experienced it. I wish I hadn't to have done that, but the response time was amazing. You know, the follow-up and everything was just great. So again, I want to thank you and your team for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
My question is, how did these numbers get here? So could you just walk me through that really quick? So a crime happened.
Yes.
Someone reports it. Then what happens? If you could just walk it through me really quickly. How does that reported crime end up here? Is it a report was taken, or was it someone was arrested, someone was convicted, or is this just reports alone?
These were reports where people called in the police department.
Okay.
And based on what particular crime had occurred, that will get categorized into this IBR system. And like I said, again, the second page I handed, or the one that says IBR, all those is everything has been reported to us.
Okay.
So, I mean, that can be broken down to by crime. I can give statistics for how many person actions we've had over the past 5 years.
So even if it's just a phone call saying, hey, a crime just happened, that number shows up here?
Not necessarily.
Okay. And then also there's one where, before I was asked to fill out a piece of paper, an officer had left a piece of paper with me to fill out. Is that count on here as well?
It ties in with that particular report number, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Our city manager, Steve Saxon.
Yes, John, can you give some examples of 780 and 781 that would be challenging to enforcement?
Yes, again, a big part of it has to do with the burglaries and the thefts, and also the drug possession charges is a big hit. I don't know if there's anything that, other than that stands out to Detective Ayers on the side that he works mainly. Again, just for instance, prior to this, possession of methamphetamine and heroin, cocaine, all that was a felony. Now it's a misdemeanor. You have to have a significant amount for it to be a felony.
A big thing that happened when 780 and 781 passed is a lot of crimes that were felonies before, which required to be filed in the district court in Wolcott, which has the funding and sentencing options to provide programs for defendants. Say they have a drug habit and they steal. When they went to the district court, it was only had to be over $500 and theft, and they go to the district court and they can get into a program that helps them rehab their lives, which I believe it works for most people that want to do it. But now that they raised the limit to $1,000, if I go to Walmart and steal $999, it's a city ticket and a fine. If the city judge wants to pay $70-something a day to the county to keep them in jail, then we do that, and that's the most time they're going to spend in jail for that charge. And it doesn't matter how many times they go to Walmart, they can steal the same thing, and it's the same city fine. The Since 780 and 781, the district attorney's office declines cases that are not felonies because we have except for drug possession. Drug possession, they have to take with it statutorily, but it's only a misdemeanor now. You can have PCP, you could have heroin, as long as you're not selling it or it doesn't meet trafficking amounts, it's a misdemeanor and it's a fine to the county. Our city attorney can speak to that too. He works with both sides of the law, civil and criminal. So there's a whole lot of issues. They fixed a few of them with the pawn shops. Initially, when 780 and 781 passed, if you pawned things that were stolen, and before that, it was a felony, no matter what it was. When 780 and 781 passed, it had to be taken in a burglary. I could go into your yard, steal your $3,500 lawnmower, and take it to the pawn shop and pawn it, and it's not a crime. They changed it recently, amended it finally, that it's now a crime to still lie on the pawn ticket, but it's not a felony anymore, I believe, until it reaches $1,000. So if I steal your $900 golf clubs out back of your truck and go pawn them, it's a misdemeanor now. It has to be over 1,000. They changed that one back there as well. So that's the main impact of 780, 781, and we've dealt with it. We're yet to see the impact of the McGirt ruling. We're having our own issues on that, and the congressmen know about it, so does the Department of Justice about. Some of our crimes that we're prosecuting and investigating only have jurisdiction in the federal court, and the cases are getting declined because they're either not a major crime or they're not a good enough case that they want. The issue is that when you have a Native American that is a victim of a crime and a non-Native suspect, the only court that can prosecute them is the federal government. And it doesn't matter what the crime is. So if it doesn't meet the threshold that the feds are taking because they're overwhelmed with cases, people are not getting prosecuted. I can bring you numerous examples of cases we've sent to the ATF, FBI, and asked them to take the USAs and being declined. So that will be something for in the next few years that we'll have to review again, and we'll address as we know more information. But that's a never-changing thing. So if there's any questions on that, it'll have to be probably at a later time.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming out and sharing this with us. I'm sure if any other questions come up, they'll just get in touch with you personally. And again, thank you guys and the rest of the officers for your service. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to current business. Item 1, consideration and possible action to approve accepting CDBG grant funds of $200,200 from the Oklahoma Department of Commerce for replacement of 23 HVAC units in various municipal buildings with no matching funds required from the city. Right? Roll call, please.
Tim Holland,
Yes, sir.
Corey Crabtree. Yes. Larry Church.
Yes.
Trace Connor. Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 2, consideration and possible action to approve the subscription agreement with the regroup notification for citywide messaging services at an annual cost of $3,678.93.
This is the renewal of what we currently have.
You might need to speak to the mic.
Is this just a renewal of what we currently have?
Did you hear the question, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
No, this is not the second company. Actually, the company that we have had has split it, and this is one half of that company. And according to our emergency management guru, he's recommending that we go with this regroup than what we had before.
Is this only for phone calls, or is this text messaging, or what is it? Do we have the option to do text messaging? I know we did phone
Yes,
calls.
you have the option to sign it.
Okay.
I get them every time.
Mayor, I got a question. What's the price difference between what we've been paying and what this one is, Mr. Saxon?
I'm gonna defer to Sharon, I don't have that in front of me, but
It's $800 less. I'm not sure.
Brad's correct, it's $800 less.
Thank you.
Motion approved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Tim Hoffman.
Yes, sir.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Trace Connor. Chris Hansen.
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 3, consideration and possible action regarding the USDA sewer plant loan and letter of intent. Steve? I believe
Yes,
that's
sir.
your call.
well, I think we went into the process asking the USDA for a loan and a grant. We had strong indications that we would get around a 20% grant. That when it left the state office and went to Washington, D.C. When Washington reviewed it and back to us, in fact, they determined that Seminole did not need a grant. They were going to loan the entire amount over 40 years at 1.59%. I'm not happy. That is not at all what we expected. And especially in light of the money that is flowing through the federal government in various programs, this does not seem appropriate. However, I think in order to get a placeholder, I think we need to go ahead and pass this, ask you guys to approve the mayor signing the term sheet. It does not necessarily bind us to go through with it. We're still going to continue to, actually, we're gonna ask kind of appeal this decision. And we're also going to be looking at other financing options for you guys to take. I will say that it's going to be very hard to find someone that will loan $20 million at 1.59% over 40 years. That's pretty good terms. But I am upset that others that are comparable demographic to us did receive significant grant money, and it just does not seem fair that because we take care of our business, we balance our budget, we are very good at distributing things and taking care of our maintenance, that somehow we are penalized for it when it gets to the federal government deciding that we can afford to make the payment, which is true. We can afford to make the payment. But it also requires us to defer maintenance on other critical issues that we need to be taken care of with that money. So they're really kind of forcing us into poverty by not allowing us to tap any of the grant money. And that's very concerning, and I think the mayor and I and probably some other elected officials are going to join the fight to ask for an appeal and be heard in Washington. So that's the plan going forward, and I'll be glad to field any questions.
Any questions? Steve?
The chance of grant money is over with, because there's not other areas.
Well, the short answer is no, the chance for grant money is not over with, but various agencies close their applications at different times in the year. For example, we've been contacted by Indian Health Services, IHS. They are very interested in helping with the project. However, their application process ended in October. So we kind of missed the window on that there's a possibility that we might be able to get back under the tent there.
So Steve, what motion do you need from council?
So I think we need from the council is that they authorize the mayor and the chairman of the municipal authority to sign the letter of intent with the USDA for the sewer plant project.
What did I write that down?
What do you say?
I ain't forgot that much yet.
Yeah, I have a question first.
Please.
Steve, are we, when you talk about the appeal, have we contacted our congressional elected officials? Is that something that could help with the appeal of that decision, that we don't need a grant?
No, this is the first, we got to place before we appeal. I'm afraid if we call them now and they immediately call USDA would say, we don't have a deal struck yet. So I think the letter of intent is the first thing that happened before we began that kind of action.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So do we need Steve to repeat? Steve?
No. We got the motion.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. We have item 3 on the table.
I'll make the motion as the city manager suggested.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Tim Poplin,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree,
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes.
Trace Connor, Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 4, consideration and possible action regarding fiber optics vendors for internet services within the city limits. I believe we have 2 gentlemen here tonight that if we have any additional questions, we can ask, and then if one of you at a time would come up and introduce yourself once any questions are filled. We'll also give you an opportunity to speak as well. One of the questions that I have, as our city manager and I kind of talked this over, was, putting this in place is a priority for us. We know that you have other priorities going on, but what the worst case for us would be, someone gets awarded this project, and then either they start and then it stalls, or it just stalls up front. Whether it's labor, equipment, whatever that might be. And we know today that's just part of life, unfortunately. But to minimize that length of time from start to finish. So one of the questions I had is, if you were to be awarded this project, what do you foresee as the time to be able to start the project, and the availability of having product as you need it going along this project, and kind of an estimated finish date? Now, the finish date I'm not holding you to, but we don't really have any idea. I mean, we've heard a year, but we don't really know if that's realistic with today's shortages of supplies. And we're just looking for a realistic date, because if both of you say, well, it's going to be 18 months, then that's most likely what it's going to be. But we don't want to be fed, we can have it done in a year, with you knowing up front it's going to be longer than that. We just want to know what the actual numbers estimate would be. So for me, that's one of my concerns is, if you're awarded this project, I know you're working on other projects around the country, so labor's, or around the states and other states, but labor's an issue, we know, and product is an issue. With that, if you want to have others ask other questions and kind of address them at once, if you want to kind of take notes, so I'll ask if anyone has any other questions. Okay, so if one of you would like to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Jim Horsford, Chief Strategy Officer for Dobson Fiber. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here again, and happy to answer any and all questions that you have. In terms of the timing concern, we're the chief, obviously, but we believe it's going to be about a 12-month project to go. And so the four pillars that are of point of concern would be materials, pole attachments, and I'd say that in terms of concerns for us, that's next to zero. We have a great relationship with OG&E. OG&E is the predominant pole owner in the city. City permits, meaning city locates. Only 20% of our deployment is expected to be underground, and so that will be a lesser burden on your utility department. I think you can talk to other cities like Enid that's experiencing a deployment that we're going through right now. It's somewhat overwhelming for that, the utilities department to field all those permitting requests. Luckily in Seminole, we think that the deployment will only need to be 20% underground, so the need for those interactions will be less, but I'm sure there are a lot of facilities, a lot of sewer lines and water lines that don't have trace wire. That it's a guess at this point on where they're located, where they are. And to be clear, we will hit some of those facilities. All we can do is commit how quickly can we restore those facilities, and whatever we break, we need to fix as soon as possible. We don't want it to be impact. The worst thing we can do is get out of the blocks poorly in the city. But we will break a few eggs. We're honest about that. We will do our best to minimize that those events, but the largest issues we run into are revolving around unlocatable facilities, or just not having sufficient locates. So pole attachments, labor, we have no concerns on that front. We have multiple contractors. We have ample capacity to handle it within that 12-month horizon. But the two things that would concern us the most in terms that are outside of our control are sourcing materials and the city locates. And we would be putting in a brand new utility into your community. Now, that's a tall order. It will be a taxing event for your utility department, even on a good day. So we feel good about the 1-year time frame with normal caveats aside that I just discussed. But you have a commitment, not just from me, but from our chairman on down. So we feel good about that time frame.
So when you talk about our utility department, can you maybe expand on that a little bit more, what you would expect you would require from them?
It really is just around locate. So
Okay.
we would need to enter into a right-of-way agreement with the city that I think we've already are a little ways down the road and have turned a draft that we have seen so far. But we would need to submit permit applications for the buried component of our network. The aerial component, we're just dealing with OG&E. We'd be able to share those plans with you, but really that's their problem, not your problem. The city's problem would be, okay, you want to go underground in these certain areas, there are city utilities that need to be located. And that is in tall order typically for communities as we put in a new facility. But all we can do is commit the work as best we can, over communicate and remediate any issues as they come our way.
Okay. Our city manager has a question. Go ahead, Steve.
So just to follow up on that, what he's talking about is when you call and ask for a location to dig, we have to send someone out to locate our sewer and water facilities. So I think what he's pointing to is that if this is a citywide utility being installed, we may have 12 months of one of our staff or more that's all they do is go out and locate utilities through the day. So I think that's what he's pointing to. I think you really have to.
That's exactly right. In some of those water and sewer facilities, what are some of what is the age on some of those utilities? Steve?
Did you hear the question, Steve?
Did you hear me?
He asked, what's some of the age of some of the water lines and sewer lines that we're talking about?
So I'm going to plead the fifth on that. We've got a few that are old and several that are new.
Statehood.
I'm sure it's something you've run into before when you get to the town.
It's not unique, Seminole is not unique in that respect.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. I'm Zach McLemore. I'm with CBC Fiber, obviously. So to answer your question, when will we get started? I mean, if y'all were to give us an answer today, we're going to get started tomorrow with the engineering, with getting all the stuff that's going to be put into place that needs to be put in place. You know, from a finish date, it looks like 12 months. If we can account for whatever Oklahoma weather is going to happen and things of that nature, because we are looking to go underground. So to his point, you know, that does involve a lot more. However, you know, if you drive down the city roads and things of that nature, you notice all the cables that are hanging from all the different poles and things of that nature. So getting that out of the air, getting it underground, it could take a little bit longer time than what it would be to just string it up, you know, above ground. But we believe that for the reliability and the resilience that it's going to provide, not to mention the beautification for the city, that's the investment that we're looking to make. Again, we've done some high-level engineering. It does appear that we'll be able to get that done within 12 months. It's not going to take 18 months, 12, you know, to 2 years to get that all wrapped up. We are not owned by investors. We don't have private owners that we're answering to. This is our money. This is our members' money that we are responsible for. And so it is where our interests align with the city to make sure that we get this turned up as quickly as possible so we can get that service turned on so that we can start getting that investment that we've made in the city, you know, paid off and things of that nature. So we have the same interest at the end of the day. We don't want this to be drawn out. We do have, from a materials standpoint, we have over 200 miles of fiber in inventory that we can draw on if need be. Same with our relationships. So we have a relationship that through that we get preferred, not pricing, but timelines and stuff like that with CommScope, who's a big fiber vendor at the end of the day. So we're gonna, if we need the materials, we're gonna be able to get those. And we already have those in stock to buffer any delays and things along that line. That's pretty much that as far as that goes, unless you got any other questions for
So
us.
I didn't ask Jim, but so I'll pick on you. So when you're putting it underground, would that be installed with a trencher pretty much, and then also boring under the roads?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be mostly boring because of all of the infrastructure that's already in those right-of-ways. But it'll be a combination of the two at the end of the day. So where it makes sense, you trench it. Where it doesn't, you go ahead and bore it. Once you get that machine set up and they got the pipe and ready to go, you know, you can shoot that shot quite a ways down the road and get that all taken care of. But to that point, you know, the locates and things of that nature will have to be done. But we believe that that will be an investment that both the city sees as valuable and that we see as valuable for securing that network within the city limits.
Okay. Anyone have any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have any information you'd like?
So, yeah, let me just recap, and this is as much for the public as it is for the council. The way we handled this, we set up I'm going to call it an Excel spreadsheet and kind of lined out some questions that we asked. And it ranged everything from pricing to speed of installation to whether this project was dependent upon grant money. And there were, I can't remember the exact number, but roughly 20 questions that we asked. And they were remarkably close. So I asked Sean Carlisle and Brian Baker, our IT director and our public works director, to actually score these applications. And so we independently got together and we scored them, and it was remarkable. I think we ended up with 285 potential points, and they were within 5 points of each other on each of the score sheets. So it ended up being two scored Canadian Valley higher, and one of us scored the Dobson a little bit higher. So, but they were neck and neck. It was, there are benefits to both, and they are unique in the way that they're approaching the system. So, this is really, I'm sorry I can't give you a more definite answer, but it's something that we're going to have to lay at the feet of the council and ask you to toss a coin, I believe.
So, Mr. Peace.
About the financing between each entity, is there any difference in that as far as the financing for the citizens of Seminole and the end cost? I'd like to address that, please.
Yes, sir. So we had early discussions that the city council would need to have some sort of match or leverage. Those were eventually removed from the proposals on both sides. Now, Canadian Valley would still like for us to participate because it helps them long-term with other grants, but they were very clear that their installation is not dependent upon grant money, nor is it dependent upon match money coming from the city.
And Dobson?
No grants are required. 100% private money.
Thank you.
So Steve, how would you like the council to proceed? Do you want to go to vote tonight?
Yes, sir. If you feel comfortable, I would certainly like to have the official, we kind of delayed this for two months now, and frankly, I can't watch the Kansas City Chiefs beat up on the Steelers if I don't have fiber optics.
Oh my gosh.
I have a question. Steve, at the last meeting, I had a question about the, would there be a sales tax that would come to the city if we went through Canadian Valley, since they are technically, they're not in city limits, but they're considered Seminole. And I think the answer was no, but the lady who was here, and I don't remember her name, and I don't have my notes in front of me, had mentioned that there would be some type, she would entertain some type of fee that could be paid back to the city. Was that included in the side-by-side comparison that you looked at?
They were exactly the same, and it is this. And Brad can speak a little bit more, but both of the prospective fiber companies are saying that they are willing to pay a fee as long as everyone else is paying the same fee. They don't want to be held at a disadvantage just because they are the preferred vendor for the city. So Brad and I have been beating the bushes trying to find those types of agreements. And I think hopefully by Friday, we're going to have something in place. But both of them have said they will execute that agreement and they will pay the fee as long as it's an equal across the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so Jay, I'm going to ask you, or actually, no, I'm going to ask Brad. How should this proceed as far as being a vote. We have two. Are we going to ask council to provide which business they want to serve the city? Or do I ask the question, or does the motion get made and then we ask each of them? I mean, it's kind of unique.
I'm glad you asked him.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing, Jay? This is a non-exclusive franchise, so, you know, it's not like you're limiting it. You know, what you're talking about is just authorizing one or the other. We've already done our due diligence. It's a vote between the two. You've heard both sales pitches, so to speak. The city has staffed it, they've done what they have, what you've asked them to do. So I don't see any legal impediments to taking the vote. You just need to make a motion of who you want to go, who you want to award it to, and vote on it. Assuming whoever it is, we will follow up with a contract. Now, that vote or that I'm hoping that will be subject to reaching an agreeable contract between the city. That would be a caveat that I would ask to be placed there. Because if we can reach that, we would come back.
Well, sound like we can do a motion for one. If that fails, we can do a motion for the other. Is that kind of where we're at with it?
There's only two, so I would assume that that's what we
Okay. Is it appropriate for me to make a motion this
Yes,
time?
it is.
I move that we accept the contract from Canadian Valley.
subject to.
Subject to.
Yeah, subject to a workable contract.
Okay. Motion is made. Wait a second.
There's a second.
Have a second. Roll call, please, Jim.
First time.
For the largest project.
Right.
Tim Poplin,
No.
Corey Crabtree,
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes.
Trace Connor,
No.
Chris Anson,
No.
Dana Miller.
Yes.
We got time here.
What is that?
Let's try.
I think that was the plan.
15 years.
Well, my vote is yes.
So yes, be.
Yes.
Yes for the motion.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for coming in and spending your time with us and, sharing the information you have. It's not an easy decision. I know there's been a lot of thought that has gone into this, and I really do appreciate you coming in and providing us with the knowledge that we didn't have before. I believe you've helped us understand what the task will be and kind of the time frame of that, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 5, discussion regarding cardboard issues facing Seminole.
Yes, Mayor, we rewards of the quantum shift in the way that people shop. I'm probably the only one that has had an Amazon box for the house over the Christmas holidays, but judging from what's happening in the dumpsters, I'm probably not the only one. It's become an issue that we are going to have to deal with at some point. The volume that we're seeing now with the online sales it has to have tenfold increased the number of cardboard boxes that we're seeing in our trash system. I've taken the liberty of visiting with Lee Randall, who ran a reclamation cardboard center before. He said he would be interested in queuing that pickup. but he would want some sort of weight behind it to require the disposal of that at some drop off. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I wanted this as an item just simply to bring it to your attention. We've got to take some action, or this is going to overwhelm our ability for our businesses to dump. I mean, over the Christmas and Thanksgiving holiday, they had nowhere to put their trash because even outside of the city, citizens were bringing their cardboard into their dumpsters. So I just encourage you to brainstorm a little bit and help me think through what solutions might be.
I like the option of being able to have the citizens put their cardboard in, because I would be one of those. I think we probably outpaced you on boxes from Amazon over the Christmas holiday, but I like the idea. I think it would be great. So I think that's a positive thing for Seminole at least to be thinking about, for us to be thinking about. Would you want phone calls, emails? How would you like information shuffled to you about this?
Well, I think it's more a function of the council passing an ordinance of some sort to say, this is where you dump cardboard. We don't want that cardboard in your containers, nor do we want it in the dumpsters behind the buildings. I think to a degree, just the act of saying we've got a new spot for you to put your cardboard would be a big help. But there needs to be some penalty associated with that. If, for example, we have a drum for cardboard, but they also bring along the kitchen trash, that we can't pay enough to have someone do that for us. So we're going to have to, I guess my question to you is, would you be willing to look at an ordinance that Sharon and I and Brad could draft to start to shape a cardboard reclamation point?
Yes. Please do.
I've looked into this once before, was interested in providing some sort of income or activity for disabled people and, mentally ill with some disability and so forth. What I came up with was that we could sort of crowdsource the collection of material by offering X amount for so many pounds. There's not a lot of money involved in it, but it may not take a lot to cause people to bring their cardboard or collect cardboard and bring it to a location in town. Is it Aldi that offers quarter if you turn the cart back in?
I think our city manager is having a hard time hearing you.
Did you hear what I'm saying, Steve?
No, sir.
Well, I'm gonna risk my life for you, Steve. I looked into this once before. I was wanting to find some activity for disabled people to where they could earn a little money. What I came up with was to crowdsource the collection of the material, the cardboard, by offering a portion of what the current value is of cardboard at the particular time that they turn it in. You can get frequent values on that from the people that buy it from you. And it's not much, but there could be enough there that would cause people to collect it and bring it in. If they could get some sort of way to exchange their earnings. It wouldn't necessarily have to be in money. There could be other things that we could offer. Money talks better than anything else. I know other places they do things with the mentally ill for instance, the disabled that shred, and they just tear it up by hand. Don't have a whole lot else to do. And that works well. They get a little spending money that way. So I think that that would be a possibility. Just throwing it out there. I think crowdsourcing the collection is the easiest, cheapest, best way to go.
So would you pay that out similar to the metal reclamation center?
Yes.
You weigh it?
Exactly. Because that's how you sell it. You sell it by the pound. So you buy it by the pound. And, you know, it's like picking up pop bottles when I was a kid. Couldn't find a pop bottle anywhere near me.
Any other comments? Okay, Steve, I think what I heard was that, yes, we would be interested in seeing something from you on this.
Very good, we'll work on it.
Thank you. With that, we move to remarks and inquiries. Ward 4, Chris Hansen.
I want to thank whoever dropped these off. I'm not sure, is there anybody here that got these or can explain these? Sharon?
Sharon?
Down there, did you want to say something about these?
Sharon,
You can hear me?
I'm sorry?
I'm just going to ask you about these. They said that you knew about these and how we got these. I wanted to thank whoever did them for us.
Those are gifts from Steve Saxon.
Well, thank you, Steve Saxon.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Anyway,
That's it. Ward 4, Trace Connor.
Oh, I was kind of wondering what you was wanting in return since you give us a present.
See the base on it.
I'm just kidding. I just want to encourage everybody to stay safe. That corona, or a variant of it anyway, is going around quite rapidly for everybody. Stay safe and wash your hands. That's about all.
Ward 3, Tim Hall.
The new street looks nice that they repaved. I drive by it every day, and I went down it for the first time. It took a little while, and I'm sure the residents on that street are happy, but it's really pretty. It looks nice. And there's been a lot of good work going on. The townhouses, it looks like an anthill over there where everybody's working and going every direction. But hey, we're heading in a great direction, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. Thank you all.
Ward 3, Corey Craig.
I'll just echo what Trace said, just stay safe. You guys take care of yourselves. We don't get out unless we have to nowadays, but I mean, unless it's somewhere we really have to be. So I look forward to working with fiber. We have fiber at our office, and I'm very interested in getting that in my house too, because it's pretty useful. I mean, nothing runs without internet anymore, so no matter who it is, I'm ready for some fiber to have in my house. So that's all I have.
Ward 1, Larry Church.
Well, nothing new on the COVID, or unexpected on the COVID front. It'll probably, best estimations that I have is probably about another 2 years before, at our present rate, before we'll reach any kind of herd immunity. The two ways that you get exposed to COVID is by direct contact, or you get immune to it through vaccination. If you're admitted to the hospital as an unvaccinated person with COVID, put on a respirator, your chances are 1 in 100 that you'll die. If you get exposed to or get immune to it through the vaccine, it's 1 in a million. That's the safest vaccine that I've ever heard of. The acceptable rate for a vaccine to kill the people that it's given to up until this time has been about 1 in 100,000. So, stay safe. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Ward 1, Dana.
I just want to welcome everyone to Ward 1. Thank you all for agreeing to have the meeting here. Just like everyone else, I'm concerned and trying to take precautions to protect not only myself, but my family, coworkers, and everyone else. I know he wasn't here to accept the recognition, but I want to mention again Captain Jeremy Hare from one of our firefighters and his off-duty heroic actions, saving someone's life. That's pretty exciting, and that's pretty exciting news when I heard about it. And I think I texted Mayor immediately and said, hey, one of our own is a hero. And that's exciting to talk about. It's good news. And just a reminder that Seminole is just full of great people. It was a good reminder. Because we talk about things like crime statistics and different things like that, but I would bet my next paycheck that Seminole has more Jeremy Hares than we do people who are looking to take advantage of others, and that we all are. It's a good place to live. And one of the things I wanted to mention was the Seminole Animal Shelter. I had seen a notice today, and I don't have the girls' names, but two little ladies, two very young ladies, couldn't be more than 10 years old, had a bake sale, and they made $266 and donated it to the animal shelter. Those are the folks, those little girls, Captain Hare, those are the folks that I'm excited about, and I know we all are, and that's why we come here and give our time to promote our city, but to also look out for those kind of folks. So I just wanted to mention them. I want to thank Steve once again for your quick response on a constituent issue we had when they had an issue with their water. I haven't heard any follow-up, but I do know that they were contacted, I think, the next day, so thank you for that. And then also too, I think since the last time we spoke, the Seminole Arts Council hosted a holiday yard decoration contest, which is part of their efforts to kind of have some inclusive festivities for the holidays. And it was really nice. A lot of people got excited, got involved. So looking forward to more things like that in the upcoming year. And I want to thank Dobson and Canadian Valley for, again, for coming out and recognizing that, internet service, like Corey had mentioned, is so important. Not only, we joke that, we want to watch football games and things like that, but especially in a time of a public health emergency, getting your health records quickly, communicating with, your healthcare providers, virtual visits, things like that, it could be life-saving. And so it is very important that the people in our city have have access to quick and easy access to internet services. So that's all I have. Thank you.
City Manager, Steve Saxon. I'm sure we catch you up.
Sorry, I know. Steve, I just want to say congratulations to your new fishing buddy. Congratulations to your new fishing buddy.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Steve, your turn.
So, I just got notified this afternoon, we'll be having our annual cleanup day. I believe, Sharon, correct me, but I think that's in April, but we'll be giving you more publicity as it nears. But we want to get several more teams than we had last year to really get out and clean up some of the side streets and make Seminole sparkle again. This is the time of year where we all, when it starts getting into the teens and even single digits, we all start to think of the homeless and trying to take care of those people. And I just want you to know that we are aware of I think, according to Chief Withers, I think we've got 5 identified that are what you would consider chronic homeless. Others that we do have homeless, I think we probably have in the neighborhood of 15 or 16 that probably qualify as homeless, but when the weather gets that cold, they do have a place to go. Whether it's a couch or someone's back room, they do have a place to go. So we're cognizant of the ones that are going to need the help, but it's not just as easy as saying, hey, we've got heat on in this building. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go to it. It's a unique situation, and I don't have the solution, and near as I can tell, there are a lot of huge cities around the nation that haven't cracked the solution yet either. So, but we are going to be aware of what's happening, and if it gets into an extended cold spell, we'll be looking to provide some services to them. So just wanted to throw that out there. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are with the Family Entertainment Center. You'll recall that we have agreed in principle to give sewer and water access across the highway in exchange for 5 acres across the street from the new high school. The Seminole City Youth Council has asked the Community Foundation to fund the preliminary architecture for $25,000. That Community Foundation voted to do that, and we have employed the architect. So here going to see some renderings of what the Family Entertainment Center would look like across from the new high school. I just want to applaud the efforts of those young people and encourage parents across Seminole to raise your children in the spirit of community service. It is extremely fulfilling for them to experience something where they're giving back to their community, and it's absolutely necessary for our community to continue to thrive, to have those sorts of volunteers in the mix every day. I want to give you a kind of a briefing of something that is developing very quickly. We were notified that there was an additional $195 million of ARPA money that was under the jurisdiction of the legislature. And although it's not being called discretionary money, I think that's probably the best way to convey it to you is that there's $195 million available to communities. There were several criteria that were kind of placed on that money, and they are accepting applications now. One of the criteria is that it has to be a generational impact on your community. Two is they want multi-jurisdictional programs. So it needs to be a wide swath, not just the city of Seminole, but several people joining hands and going in for the money. And lastly, they don't want any projects under $10 million. They don't want to try to spend, $200,000 or $300,000 in every single community and not have a big generational impact. So after brainstorming that, we called Tri-County Rural Water District and the city of Tecumseh. And we asked them to sit down with us and begin to brainstorm a multi-jurisdictional program that would fit what all the criteria, I'm going to call them ring the bells, that were in this grant process. And so far we've had 2 meetings, and everything to this point has been extremely positive. So the project, as we are forming it now, is we, Seminole, would get a water tower near the college dormitory. So we would put a major water tower on that end of town, allowing Tri-County to hook to that tower, and it would offer them a lot of additional supply that they really need as the South Rock Creek area begins, and Earlsboro begins to grow. I should add that we are going to ask Earlsboro to join us, even though it's in their jurisdiction, it's still Tri-County. And then Tri-County, it would be upgrading the line, the main lines, to be able to carry water from Tecumseh. And the reason that this is significant, if you were here in 2007, 2008, when just about every lake dried up, we had water. We were able to supply water. But they didn't have it. And almost nobody had it at that point. So we began brainstorming then, how are we going to solve that? And on the other side of the coin, should our wells ever get a challenge and we need to be able to depend on surface water, we would be able to tap into Tecumseh's system, which is a surface water treatment system. So Tecumseh decided that would be that they are going to upgrade significantly water treatment plant. And they already have a big allocation that comes out of the West Watkins Reservoir. And we would just be asked for a piece of that when and if we need it. So that, in a nutshell, is the program that we're trying to launch. We met today with the engineers, our engineer and theirs. And everybody was nodding their head, yes, this sounds like something that will be a huge impact. It will provide security for Seminole and Tecumseh and Tri-County. And it definitely is an upgrade. So I just wanted to bring that to you and let you know that at some point we may ask for a multi-jurisdictional cooperative agreement. Kind of put Brad on notice that this is kind of developing and get any input that you may have. So I probably need to say in 2007, the city council allowed me to brainstorm something very similar to this. And I asked Shawnee if they would be willing to investigate tapping into Sardis Lake. At the time, Sardis Lake was an Army Corps lake that really didn't have anyone using their water. Well, about 4 or 5 months into this, we had Mustang, Yukon, Edmond, Oklahoma City, Del City, and basically Seminole was pushed out of the lake. So the reason for the size of this application, where we're trying to keep it very small, is we don't want to get pushed aside and to be the last one that people call. So we're trying to keep it very small. We're not asking anyone else other than Earlsboro potentially to join us in this application. I'd be glad to field any questions on that at some time. I just want to echo everyone with regard to COVID. This is real. The ICU beds are full. I know that speaking to our fire chief, that it's a critical situation. We're having to transport long distances again. And if you don't think it's impacting your neighbor, you are wrong. This is real. And I know we all have the COVID fatigue, and we're tired of the masks and tired of being so considerate of giving people space, but we've got to take care of each other as we get through this. Lastly, I'm looking at my picture here. I'm going to put in the CIP program to have one of those nice halo lights that make me prettier. I don't know, do you think that might be workable, Mayor?
I think that'd be a perk.
And last thing, Mayor, who is America's real football team? Is that Kansas City Chiefs, or is it?
Well, you know, there's some that like to claim it because of marketing, but, you know, I think it's probably more likely the center of the U.S. would be Kansas City, so.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. City Attorney Brad Carter.
I just wanted to tell the council, the next process on this fiber optic project will be negotiating and getting an agreement, a non-exclusive right-of-way agreement for Canadian Valley to use our right-of-ways. And that's the agreement that actually comes before the council for approval. So that's the agreement that I'm talking about. It talks about installation, operation, maintenance, the fee, whatever the fee is going to be, all that will be put in there. So really until we get that back and before the council, hopefully fairly quickly, that will be the thing that we'll be looking for.
Thank you. Well, I would say on my part, I would hope that we would be able to help Canadian Valley in maybe obtaining some funding, outside funding, as it will do nothing but probably help us down the road as well. There may be some roadblocks, and I'm sure Steve will let us know if there is, but on my part, I think that would be nice to be able to help in that way as well. All right, with nothing else, I entertain a motion for adjournment. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Congratulations. It's good to see you.